the Courageous Self-Care podcast. I'm your host, Christina Marlette. On this show, we talk about self-care that takes courage, as you may have guessed from the name. But what kind of self-care does take courage? From my extensive experimentation and research on this topic, the kind of self-care that takes courage is called internal self-care. The stuff that's going on the inside, where it is mysterious and murky and uncharted territory. And for that reason, we often need a guide because we don't know what we don't know. So hello, I'm your guide for today. Today we're talking about getting jiggy with abundance. And what I wanted to share with you is that abundance is part of the foundational skill set of lightening up and having more fun. So if you are new to the podcast, Courageous Self-Care has 12 foundational skill sets. And that's because self-care is a skill that can be learned and mastered. And we're working on those skills that come from the inside and make a tremendous difference to the outside. Right now, we're in the foundational skill set called Lighten Up and Have More Fun. Now, when you hear that, you might think, well, that just means playing more and laughing more and doing stuff that makes me feel happy. And yes, that is all true. Underneath, though, there are some important things to look at and discover. So with that, we're going to get into the idea of how to align with the energy of abundance, getting jiggy with it, and how to move away from the energy of lack. Abundance, it comes from the original words of fullness, plenty, and overflow. Think about those words for a moment and even feel those words. You might want to say them to yourself and notice what happens physically in your body. Fullness, plenty, overflow. I don't know what's happening in your body, but for me, I'm getting tingling and the sense of expansion and possibility. Physically showing up as kind of like stretching and release of tension in the front of my shoulders. Abundance energy is where it's at. Unfortunately, most of us are more aligned with the energy of lack, not having enough. So listen to these words that are where the word lack originates from. Absence, want, shortage, deficiency. Oh, how did those feel in your body? I'm noticing that the sensation of expansion and warmth and tingling that was in the front of my shoulders turned into this sense of contraction, like my shoulders actually started to round. Now, we might not use those words in our everyday life. I'm feeling a deficiency of youth, but if you think about the words that do show up when it comes to lack, we often say things like, I don't have enough, I can't afford, I'm not blank enough, I want blank. And that shows us that every time we say that, we are more aligned with the energy of lack. So what's the problem with that? Well, in terms of fulfilling our desires and putting energy out there, whatever we're putting out there is coming back to us because all of those thoughts that we have around lack are coming from underlying beliefs in our subconscious. Those beliefs run the show. And so beliefs are always working to be proven as true. So if you are constantly saying in your mind or out loud, well, I can't afford that. Everything's so expensive. I don't know where the money's going to come from. I just want to win the lottery. These are all money examples because that tends to be a big thing that we are convinced we don't have enough of. then we are going to get more experiences and circumstances that prove those words and that belief to be true. It's very contracted energy. If we move into the energy of abundance, like, ooh, I have more than enough, or I know that plenty of money is on its way, or, oh, I'm choosing not to buy that right now, but if I wanted to, I could because I have enough money for that. You might think, well, that's not true. Well, what we say becomes our truth. So if you want to make a shift, a great way to move into that energy of abundance is to take steps along that continuum. So if you imagine, right now I have my arms stretched out. On one side we have the end point of lack. On the other side we have the end point of abundance. Many of us are much closer to that point of lack. So if we want to start moving more towards the energy of abundance, it is a journey. You're not going to get there just like that. But we can start to take steps along that continuum, changing our beliefs, changing our thoughts, changing our emotions, changing our physical state, and moving into that energy of abundance. The energy of abundance is light and playful. It is expansive. It is overflow. It is the energy of plenty. I am noticing today that so much of that energy is in my shoulders and across my back. And when we feel the energy of lack in our bodies, it can contribute to really poor posture. Rounded, contracted, small, not confident, not enough. When we come into the energy of abundance, it is sitting tall or standing tall. It's broad shoulders, it's confidence that we are able to create our own experience. So this is a way to lighten up and have more fun, because being in the energy of abundance is way more fun. It results in better posture. It results in lighter thoughts. It doesn't have the heaviness and the weight of the world on your shoulders. I want to share a story of an experience I had recently about consciously moving from lack energy into abundance energy. I did want to pause here for a break, a quick sponsor break. This podcast today is sponsored by Pro-Aging by Julie Hodge. So have a quick listen to this blurb from Julie, and then I'll be right back.
She was tired, irritable, and overwhelmed, running on empty, dragging her body around each day only to collapse in bed. So she hit the reset button. Now she springs out of bed each day filled with energy. She's traded spending money on quick fixes for getting honest answers on how to actually live better. She inhales gratitude, enjoys physical activity, spends more quality time with her kids, and has reconnected to her relationships and herself. Visit proagingprograms.com to learn how you can too.
Last week, I got an email from a friend saying, hey, did you know that someone is having a self-care conference in Calgary, where I live? My initial thought was, hey, that's my territory. I'm the self-care person from Calgary. I just had a festival last year, and this is mine. How can someone else be doing that in my city? There are 1 million people here, and I am fully capable of servicing all 1 million people with my knowledge of self-care. Saying it out loud makes it sound even more funny. I was definitely in my ego, and I noticed, there is some tightness around this new information. My monkey mind, my ego, wanted to brood about it and be in that lack energy. So I noticed that, and I thought, well, this isn't fun, and if this is how my ego wants to behave, I'm going to do the exact opposite. So I did a little bit of research. I found out who was organizing the conference, and I thought, although my mind wants to believe it, there isn't competition. I'm going to reach out to this woman and find out what she's up to and see how I can align with her. So I went from the very end of that lack continuum, way out where my hand is stretched out again, on this, with my arms outstretched on that pathway from lack to abundance. I was at the very end of it with my initial reaction to this information. And I thought, I don't want to behave like that. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel light and playful. It feels deficient. It feels like not enough. So I took some steps to move towards the energy that feels better, which is the energy of abundance. I ended up having a delightful conversation with this woman. She's actually going to be a guest on the podcast, so watch out for the interview coming up, I don't know, shortly with Deb Crow. And we had an amazing conversation. It really reaffirmed the energy that I want to be in, which is the energy of collaboration. There aren't actually a whole lot of people who focus on self-care, so it was fun and enlightening to get to chat with her and find out where she's coming from with self-care, find out about her journey. Turns out her approach to self-care is completely different from my approach, and during the conversation, it became very clear that there was definitely enough room for both of us in this big old city. And I said, it feels like the people who are needing you are going to be put in front of you, and the people who are needing me are going to be put in front of me. And if people want to learn all there is to know about self-care, then they can go to both of us. So it turns out I'm going to help her with her conference and help her spread the word. And that feels so much more in alignment with what I want and who I want to be. And so I felt like I had moved along that continuum so much closer to the endpoint of abundance rather than being in the competition, lack, not enough energy that my ego, my wounded ego, wanted to be in. And she even said that she had reached out to some other people in our city who were still in that competition mode, and she didn't receive a very warm welcome from them. But she said, I just feel like there is more than enough. Those are words of abundance. And that it's fun to lock arms with people who are in the same topic as us. We can learn from them. We can support each other. And then energetically, if I choose to support her, then when it comes time for my festival, I'm going to attract that same energy and that same experience of abundance, an abundance of help, an abundance of support, an abundance of people coming forward in the community to help out like I did. So that is a recent experience of my own, going from that energy of lack to abundance. Now, what does it have to do with you? Well, I would like to show you the courageous process it's going to be released for the first time today on the podcast. Very exciting. This 3-step process on how you can turn any situation around to make it serve you rather than drain you. So here comes the process. Are you ready? I don't know that it has a name yet. The courageous self-care process. I don't know. Maybe it'll come out later while I'm talking, or I'll sit and think with it. Think about it and sit with it, and it'll come to me. So right now it is the process with no name. Okay, using the 3-step process, I'm going to show you how to move along that continuum to align or get jiggy with abundance. Step 1 is get curious. Like I did with my initial reaction. Get curious with your thoughts or your reactions or your feelings. If something is feeling contracted and tight and more like, I don't have enough of that, I want that so badly, I don't feel like there is enough, then get curious. What's going on there? ask yourself some questions. Is this really how I want to experience life? What is going on here at the core level? What belief is this revealing? And is that belief actually serving me? So in my experience with finding out that there was another self-care event happening in Calgary, the egoic part of me, the reptilian brain, had an immediate response that was, not enough. I feel angry. I feel territorial. And I noticed in my body that there was that sense of contraction. So getting curious with that and noticing, is this what I actually want? So step number 1 is get curious. Step number 2. Step number 2 is get connected. Get connected with what it is that you actually desire. So for me, as I reflected on, this isn't how I want to show up in the world, my desire is to be light and playful. And where I was, as revealed by answering my questions about being curious, it revealed that I was definitely not feeling light and playful. So I thought, what is it that I actually desire to connect with? Well, it's the energy of abundance. It's the energy of collaboration. It's the energy of plenty. So in any situation, you can use your initial reaction to notice what it is that you want to be connected with. Where do you want to be on that continuum? And every experience has a continuum. It may not be lack and abundance. It may be sickness and health. It may be, what are some other energies? Well, they all tend to align with lack and abundance in all truth. Not enough time, more than enough time. So get connected with what it is that is the opposite of what you are experiencing. And for me, I wanted to be connected with great energy. I wanted to be connected with the potential of being aligned with someone who's interested in the same topic and subject area as me. I wanted to be connected with the energy of there's more than enough, and obviously I cannot serve 1 million people. My self-care would completely disintegrate if I was trying to serve 1 million people, not to mention the ones that I'm reaching all around the world through this podcast and through the other programs that I offer. So get connected. That's step number 2. Next, step number 3. Step number 3 in this mystery process that has no name yet is get creating. You'll notice that I did not choose get creative. It is an action verb. Get creating. How can you start creating the experience that you just connected with? What I wanted to get creating was the possibility of connecting with this conference organizer. So I took the uncomfortable step, and this creating step is often, if you're really moving towards where you want to be, it will probably almost always be uncomfortable. I sent an email. Well, first I did a little research on Deb and what she was up to so I could be more informed. And then I sent an email saying, I noticed, or I found out that you were hosting this conference, and it seems like you and I have something to talk about since we're both interested in self-care. Perhaps you'd like to be a guest on my podcast, so I would love to connect with you. That was uncomfortable. The part of my ego that was still in lack was saying, don't do it. Yeah, pretty much. That's what it was saying. You're reducing your chances of having a successful festival. You should be the only one. So those sounds and voices and ideas and thoughts were still there. They didn't disappear because, like I said, it's a pathway. It's not an immediate shift into abundance. But I overcame those voices. I sent the email, and connected with Deb, and it turns out we had so much to talk about. It was very enjoyable, and I felt like I had moved through a significant limiter, which made me align so much more with that energy of abundance. So that's step number 3 is get creating. How can you create an experience in real life that will physically and emotionally and mentally and spiritually take you more towards where you would like to be? So I wanted to be more in that energy of lightness and fun and playfulness. And fun and playful people aren't grumpy and territorial. They are expansive. And so I took steps, action steps, embodied action steps. I physically used my body to write that email and then to have a conversation. And that's what I did. So that is step number 3, get creating. I encourage you the next time you are feeling like you notice, oh my gosh, this is me in the energy of lack, to go through those 3 steps. Again, they are get curious, get connected, and get creating. I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that you are able to take the mystery unnamed process. Maybe it's the President's Choice process since it has no name. The President's Choice process, and I kind of like that. Anyways, yes, I'll take that process and bring some levity and fun and lightness into your life, taking those burdens off your shoulders. I want to share a resource with you. Every time I do the podcast, I have some resource that is available, that's free, so that you can, if you want, take a little bit of a deeper dive into courageous self-care. So the one that I want to share with you today is the self-care style quiz. What is your style when it comes to self-care? There are 4 different styles, and they move along in a continuum. You'll see when you take the quiz, if you haven't done it already, that there is definitely a sense of lack in some of the answers and a sense of abundance in the other answers. So why don't you take the quiz and see where you are when it comes to self-care? Why is it fun to take quizzes? Well, it helps you lighten up and have more fun with this topic of self-care, and it's always interesting to learn more about ourselves. The greatest journey we can go on in this lifetime, in my opinion, is that of self-discovery, so that we can fall in love with that amazing being of who we are, and then learn to share that person boldly and courageously and joyfully with the world. Last thought about self-care. Okay, while my mind formulates that, I'm going to invite you to give this, if you enjoyed this, to give this episode a like on whatever platform you're listening to it on. Leave a comment, share it with a friend who you know could use this information as well. And here is the final thought, what I want to say about self-care. It is, as I mentioned earlier, a skill set. So courageous self-care is a series of skills that everyone has the ability to learn and practice and master. So you might be on the end of the continuum of self-care skill set right now of, I don't have any skill, I don't practice any self-care. But where I would love to take you is from I don't do any self-care to I do it because I know it's good for me, to I do it because I see the benefit and the results, all the way to I practice courageous self-care because it's simply who I am. It becomes a part of who you are. And everyone has the ability to get there. So practice your self-care skill set with the President's Choice. President's Choice. What's that called? President's Choice. What's that word? President's Choice. Process. Yes, the President's Choice process. Get curious, get connected, and get creating. And I look forward to connecting with you again next time. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye for now.